Okay, we will get started. Hope you guys had a chance to enjoy the very short tea break. So we will get to the second panel. Very happy to moderate this second panel. This is a very carefully selected panel. We have speakers or representatives from 3 different jurisdictions, Hong Kong, mainland China, and also US. First speaker will be Amy Lee. Amy is the Chief Legal Director for Microsoft in Hong Kong. Microsoft has been a pioneer in pushing for the deployment of general AI at the individual and also enterprise levels. So it would be very nice to get some insights and also perspectives from Amy. Our second speaker will be Carver. Carver Year. Mr. Yue is has the IP department for Ecovacs. He is the Chief IP Counsel for Ecovacs. Ecovacs is a Suzhou, China-based company, robotics company, focusing on home cleaning and also some other areas as well. They're launching some automatic cooking machines by deploying some smart technology, including potentially AI stuff as well. Carver is in-house, but he's also a legal thinker and he also historian. He's working on a book on the history of IP, focusing some micro history with some small events and small stories on the development of IP in different places. So certainly that's something we look forward to seeing very soon in the future. Last but not least, we have Caleb Donaldson from Google. Ms. Donaldson has been Senior Corporate Counsel in Google for more than 10 years. So it'll be good to get some perspectives from Ms. Donaldson as well. So Amy, welcome.
Hello. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Lee from Microsoft Hong Kong. It is my great pleasure to be here. And thank you so much, Professor Sun, for inviting me to share our approach on AI governance and Microsoft commitment on AI. So first of all, in preparing this presentation, I have asked AI for help. And I tried a new Microsoft Designer image creator and created the image here. So can you guess what's the prompt? I asked AI to produce a picture featuring a professional and pretty lawyer at Microsoft Hong Kong, delivering a presentation at a lecture hall of Hong Kong U, and with a group of about 100 happy and intelligent audience. So you see, AI is doing pretty good, and it can understand that it's about AI, so it prepare a backdrop with some fancy AI like photos, and also most importantly, the audience look happy and they are intelligent, right? So if you're interested to try it out, here's the website and try it out. It's free of charge. Just quickly about myself. So proudly, I'm a Hong Kong U law graduate. I studied LLB and PCL here many years ago. And now I'm an IT lawyer with 10 plus years experience with private practice and 10 plus year in-house with Microsoft. And I'm now overseeing all legal policy and government affairs matters in Hong Kong and Macau. I'm a member of the InnoTech Committee of the Law Society of Hong Kong and also a number of several other associations. I'm pretty passionate about technology and I believe in its ability to make all of us better. With this slide, I borrow from my colleague. First of all, I'm not a sales. I bear no sales quota. But I think it would be good to give some background about what Microsoft is doing nowadays. As you all know, we have a partnership with OpenAI, and then we invested in this company, but we are separate. We are two different companies. So we have a partnership so that we can use their GPT technologies, and then we we try to incorporate this technology in as many of our products as possible. So you see, we have launched a series of like Copilot product for every of our Microsoft Cloud experience. Microsoft 365 Copilot is like integrating AI in our Office suite. So it's like Office, PowerPoint, Teams, Word, etc. And then we have all sorts of Dynamics 365 Copilot, Power Platform Copilot. And then I think security Copilot is pretty important because nowadays, like hackers, they are leveraging AI in doing the cyber attacks. And so we also have to equip ourselves to better defend the attacks. And also like Windows, GitHub. And other than the Copilots, we also have the Azure OpenAI platform on our Azure. So developers and customers, they can build their own apps and solution leveraging AI capabilities on our cloud platform. Right. So if I may, let me play this video to just quickly show some of the examples of Copilot. So this is the M365, like PowerPoint. You can ask them, prompt them to prepare a PowerPoint deck for you. So it just take about 20 seconds. It will like create a first draft for you based on your prompt and requirement. So you see, it helps us like at least like save 30-40% of our time. And then of course we can still, there's a like Windows box that you can ask the designer to sort of change the layout, you can change the content. So it's pretty convenient. Yeah. So this is another example that we can say, for example, if you have a Word document, like 60-page, you want to turn it into a PowerPoint deck to present to your management. So instead of doing it yourself or ask your like trainee intern to do it, you can like use the Copilot to do it for you. Again, you just put the prompt and then take around 20 seconds. Here we go. Create the first draft for you. Then you can again fine-tune it. Ask the Copilot to make the adjustment. About the Copilot for Word. If you have a long document, you can ask Copilot to summarize it for you. So instead of like taking like 30 minutes to go through all the details, you can ask Copilot to give you a high-level summary. You can ask some questions. So we will provide answers based on your document. And this feature is used quite often. It's like always we receive emails with very long email chain. It's like takes time to go through all of them. So there's a button that you can ask Copilot to just provide you a high-level summary. So at least you can like in 10 seconds, you can like understand what the email is about. Yeah. So yeah, this is it. And since about 2 months ago, all lawyers and policy GA professionals in Microsoft around the world, about 2,000 plus of us, we are using this in our day-to-day work. So I think the features that I like most is not features. This is a demo produced by my colleague using his own Copilot. The features that I like most is Teams, about like conference call. Usually, sometimes we may not be able to attend calls, right? We can ask the Copilot to attend a call for us, and then it can provide a summary for us afterwards, and then we can ask what's the action item, and then it can summarize for us. So instead of like watching the video afterwards, like 2 times the speed, right? We always do that. And we can now like do it. The Copilot can have us on this. Okay, so next slide. Yeah. So, we are using it ourselves, and then I just captured some examples of use of our generative AI technologies by universities in Hong Kong. Earlier, I think months ago, we had an announcement, 8 universities, Hong Kong universities in Hong Kong, they deploy GAI in education. Basically, the universities, they don't want to use the consumer version of ChatGPT, so they asked us for help, and then they now build a enterprise level, a secured GPT based on our Azure platform. And again, there's another very good example on the right-hand side. There's a professor at the University of Hong Kong. He leveraged, again, the Gen AI capabilities, and then he just used, like, I think it's 30 hours to write a book. Professors, Haifeng, you can consider this. Right. So we all know the benefits of AI. So we are also aware of the risks, and then we should manage those risks. So I have settled here like the list of issues that likely keep us awake at night in using AI. So it includes like how do we protect trade secrets, sensitive data, how to keep PII safe. Again, like today's theme is IP, right? So how can we protect against risks of litigation for IP infringement? How do like companies manage reputational risk if things go wrong, etc. Right? So at Microsoft, we start to address all these concerns by giving contractual commitments on a number of things. First of all, contractually, we included in our contract saying that, customers' data is your data, is not our data. So this will not be available to other customers, will not be used for training OpenAI or Microsoft models. And then this is actually like written down in our data protection addendum contract for our cloud services. And then your fine-tuned AI models are available exclusively for your use. And again, your data will be protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security controls. And we have like a lot of certifications surrounding this area. And again, we understand our customers' concern, right? So we have publicly committed to our customers that we will work together with them. We will partner with them to make everyone's life easier. So we started to share our learnings about developing and deploying AI responsibly, because like Microsoft, we have started our AI journey pretty early, like at least a few years back. So we have developed a set of best practices in-house, and we are now like sharing these best practices with all our customers, including the tools and templates. Indeed, I have bring with me a folder today. We have this like a folder of materials that we share publicly with our customers. Like we have developed the Microsoft Responsible AI Standard. Also, this available online. So if you're interested, you can go to the website and take a look. And then we have the Responsible AI Impact Assessment Guide. So basically, it provides more details on, like, say, for example, your engineer, you want to develop and leverage AI system. So what aspects should they like look into. And we also have a template, really like a table format for them to like take a look, like to do the risk assessment, so they do not have to create all these materials all by themselves. We shared it with customers and the public. And also, we have created an AI assurance program. We are committed like to work with our customers to develop their AI best practices, and also especially for regulated customers like those in the FSI industry, we are like helping them to work together with their regulators. And we also have like a regular dialogue with regulators around the world. And then we also like have mechanism for customers to provide feedback to us, so that we can like improve our policy based on customers' feedback. Yeah. So these are the like responsible AI governance framework that I mentioned just now. I think I'm not going to go through it today in detail, but basically I think it aligns with all the international practices. And this is the template. And on customer, on copyright, I think this is my last slide. So I would just like to mention about this commitment. I think Hao Chen also mentioned it just now, is that we are like committing to all of our commercial customers that if they are using our paid commercial AI services and Microsoft Copilot services, so we will defend them. We will defend the claim and pay the judgment or the settlement. So the rationale is behind is that, well, we are like the developer of the system. We think the customers shouldn't like be worried about what they are using, and so we just will go ahead to defend them and then take care of that part for them. But of course, there are some qualifiers, right? For Copilots, we have built in a lot of guardrails. So actually, we are pretty confident that the outcome like it's a very, very low risk of infringing copyright. So the qualifiers that as long as the customer, they shouldn't like disable, evade, disrupt, or interfere with the content filters, restrictions in meta prompts or other built-in safety systems, then it's fine. Say, for example, that you shouldn't like ask the system, oh, can you, as the example of how Chen made Mickey Mouse, right? Can you like replicate, copy Mickey Mouse or copy the logo of Gucci and then make a trademark for me? Then that's not acceptable. But otherwise, we will like honor our commitment. And then for AOAI, there, well, because it's like, it's not SaaS, right? It's IaaS or PaaS. So the customer, they must implement all required mitigation. There's public documentation about like how to avoid infringement. And there are also two things to note, that it doesn't cover inputs or use of output content. Yeah, again, that I covered, that the customer know or should have known will infringe the rights of others. And it does not cover the use of trademark in trade or commerce, right? Yeah, so I hope that this is helpful. This is my sharing for today. Thank you.
So much, Amy. Very good presentation. I also enjoyed music. This is what AI conference should look like. Next speaker will be Carver.
Your microphone has something.
It's not working. Sorry about this. You know, China has been leading some efforts for the AI governance as well. So this has been a very, very hot topic, not only at the policy level, but also from a user perspectives as well. So Carver will share some perspectives from a company's level, and also how from the Chinese perspective, and how AI should be governed from the industry, and also how this is going to affect the market globally as well. Mr. Ye will use Chinese for the presentation, but he has this slide deck to be in both English and Chinese, and hope this will work OK，
很抱歉啊，我呢一直在国内的企业工作，所以说呢，我的这个口语长期都不说了，所以说只能用这个汉语来给大家讲一下啊，跟大家讲一下。那么今天我要分享的这个题目呢，是叫做让 AI 点亮世界，让 AI 点亮世界。我先介绍一下我自己的一个过往。我初入 IP 这个行业的时候呢，先是去了这个 ZTE 中兴通讯，然后做通信，然后完了之后呢，离开中兴通讯呢，去到了阿里巴巴，然后去阿里云在做云计算。后来在7年前的时候呢，离开了阿里巴巴去 Ecovacs， 然后去做这个机器人，所以说一直呢在跟这个人工智能这样的一个行业保持一个非常紧密的这样的一个关系啊。那么当 AI 这几年然后横空出世的时候了，然后我们很多人在思考说，我们要用一种什么样的一个制度去制约 AI， 去管理 AI。我在思考这个问题的时候，我就是在想，我们人世间的这些制度是用来干什么的？我们设计的这么多制度，其实是用来对抗人性的。比如说，举个最简单的例子，我们现在在世界上边绝大多数国家所采用的这种一夫一妻制，对吧？到今天我们的社会上面还有很多渣男渣女，对不对啊？有渣男渣女，对不对？然后我们在几千年前就开始说，哎，我们要设计一个制度叫一夫一妻制，来维护这个世界的平衡，让我们每一个人都能够各安其所，而不会乱来，对吧？那么其实关于这样的一个制度的思考，东方的先贤跟西方的先贤都找到了，他们不约而同的都找到了这样的一个制度的点，然后完了之后呢，哎，设计出了这样的一套制度来管理我们整个人类，对吧？那么今天呢，我们实际上大多数国家已经严格实施一夫一妻制了，实施一夫一妻制了，对吧？那我们再看一下，2000年前的孔子他说了：“克己复礼。”礼是什么？我们要控制自己的欲望，用礼来管好我们自己啊。他用的是礼。那么朱熹在1000多年前的时候也会说：“人之一心，天理存，则人欲亡；人欲盛，则天理灭。”这天理灭，对吧？然后王阳明就说了：“圣人之所以为圣，只是其心纯乎天理，而无人欲之杂。学者学圣人，不过是去人欲而存天理耳。”这是古代的哲学家用礼，用这样一种方式来干嘛呢？要让人来管好自己，来对抗自己的心里边的恶。我们要向善，要向善。那西方的哲学家也说了，随着灵魂中欲望的减少，其中的爱会增长。当灵魂中不再有欲望时，就拥有了完美的爱。我们会发现，东西方的哲学家他们都找到了共同的这样一个方法。所以说，我们最后得出来的结论是什么？制度的设立是为了对抗人性。但是今天我们来想一下 ，AI 会是渣男吗？会是渣女吗？但是如果他渣的话，又怎样？这边的一个 AI 喜欢上了海峰家的 AI， 同时又喜欢上艾米家的 AI。I don't care. I don't care. But 如果是我们家里边的一个小朋友，他喜欢了另外一个，又喜欢了另外一个，我作为家长，我觉得哦，这个不行，这个不行，对吧？所以说，我们设计的这样的一个制度是来对抗人性。那到了这儿的时候了，如果我们直接的把我们现有的这样的一些制度用来管理人的这样的一个制度，直接用到 AI 身上，我认为这个是行不通的，这是行不通的。所以说，今天当我们面对 AI 的时候了，我们要管的是谁？我们还是要先管好人，然后完了之后去学习 AI，再为它去制定制度。那我们继续往下啊。那我们来看一下 今天的 AI 在今天这样的一个时代，它会带来什么？首先会带来什么？我们认为在这样的一个时代下，它会变成一个垄断与霸权的一个极致的工具，极致的这样一个工具，它现在只掌握在少数人的手里边，并且取得了不掌握 AI 的人的一个绝对优势。我们今天都知道，中国、美国都是世界 AI 的大国，他们的无人机、他们的卫星可以去看遍全世界，可以去飞遍全世界。啊，我是从大陆来的，我也有这个信心，对吧？他们能做到这些。那么对于大公司来讲，它完全可以取得非常非常强烈的优势，这是普通人所无法去对抗的。但是这不是 AI 它想去做的，这是人想去做的，所以说这是根源，这是根源。好，那我们继续往下，就问一个问题：谁会在 AI 应用的过程当中获利最大？我们要观察这样的一个问题，才能够去针对这样的一个问题去设计一套制度来去管控这样的一个问题，这样的一个问题。那我们来看一下，这里边的呢，这下面呢会有两个小例子，这其实也是借助 AI 工具来做的啊，借助 AI 工具来做的。另外，我还想说一下，就是今天我这个 PPT 上面会没有这个要求版权的这样，我这里边的所有的内容呢，大家都可以。为什么呢？因为 AI 帮助我了啊，这个也会跟我最后的结论有关系。那我们举个例子，就是说，穷爸爸富爸爸，对吧？然后有一个小朋友拿到了一个金奖，他说参加这个比赛的时候，他的爸爸给他购买了 AI 公司完整的版权协议和工具包，于是他取得了一个巨大的优势，而一个中产家的孩子只能说：“哎呀，我只买了基础的工具包，啊，那我只能拿一个参与奖。”而对于穷人家的孩子呢，穷人家的孩子在风雪当中瑟瑟发抖，我什么也得不到，为什么？因为我没有这样的一个工具，我没有这样的一个工具，这是一种极致的不平等。那我们再看另外一个例子，资本的垄断可能会增加创新的成本。今天我们如果做知识产权的话，其实我们并不知道外面有多少的壁垒，我们是在一个经济层当中去找一条非常狭窄的道路去追求我们的成功。那我们可能从小就要教孩子们说，小朋友，你要想发表你的作品，你一定一开始的时候就得来看看，要进行版权检索，否则的话你有可能会侵犯，因为 AI 太强大了 ，AI 太强大，对吧？好，那么而我们在平时的工作当中，我们面对 AI 这么一个强大的对手的时候，我们有一个创新，我们画了一幅图之后，会不会有可能说，哎呀，早就画出来，你没法用，你没法用，我们根本没有办法跟刚才艾米举的那个例子，20秒钟就可以做出一个非常非常完善的这样一个东西去竞争。然后我可能做一个 PPT 要在那边先想3天，想完3天之后坐在办公室里面再做3个小时，然后我才能说，哦，我做好了这份产品。也对于 AI 来讲，20秒，20秒 ，OK， 并且我还得来担心说我会不会侵他的权啊？所以垄断可能会带来整个对于知识产权滥用这样的一种问题啊。我们在做任何作品的时候，我们对于未来的未知会更加加剧我们对于我们去做事情的这样一种担忧。我们不清楚我们什么时候就会被一个 AI 公司找上门来说啊，我们的某某某作品早已经做好了，我们可能根本都不知道，然后就撞上去了。然后完了之后呢，他们有更强大的资源，然后有更强大的律师，最后我们会发现我们毫无抵抗之力。如果未来的世界是这个样子的，我想 AI 应当去灭亡，人类可能也会在这个过程当中要走向灭亡。那我们将来想要的是怎么样的一个世界？我们想要一个怎么样的世界 ？OK。今天我们所处的这样一个世界，比起200多年前，天冷了，我们会有空调， 天黑了，我们会有电灯。人类驯化了这个世界上边最难驯化却又最听话的一个仆人，就是电。但是电并没有成为一个垄断的权利，电让全世界所有的人都能够沐浴在它的光芒之下，并且我们可以随时随地的去接入电，来依据这个电来进行创新。于是我们有了电动机，于是我们有了彩电，所有的这些。那电力公司他们所要求的利润是什么呢？他们只要求发电的合理利润。那么电又是怎么来的呢？电其实是地球上长期存储着来自于太阳的能量，发电公司只不过是把这些能量给它转化出来之后，然后释放给全社会，我们所有人都因此而受益，并且今天用电的门槛已经没有门槛了，只要你家里边能够接入这个电线，你都可以用上电，你都可以打开电脑去创新。那么今天 AI 所产生的作品，它又是怎么来的呢？其实是基于整个人类历史上所产生的所有的作品，他们也像是说，把我们过去几千几万年来所积累的所有的这些能源，原来是埋在这个固执堆当中的这些能源，然后把它加工出来之后变成了产品，非常非常类似于什么？发电厂在发电。那 OK， 我们对于 AI 的期待就是，以后的 AI 公司，它应该像发电厂一样，它把这些作品产生出来之后，它所能够主张的权利是它的成本，再加上一点点合理的利润，然后完了之后，把整个 AI 对全社会的应用的门槛，把它降低到接近于零。我们任何一个人，未来任何一个小朋友从出生开始，他就可以无门槛的去应用 AI， 去做他自己想要做的事情，利用 AI 去做他创新性的这样一个事情。这样会因为这些创新，会因为这样的一种无门槛的助力，会让更多的人能够有机会，然后让这个世界变得更美好。这是一个公共的服务。所以说，我们今天，我个人的一个观点就是，我们作为这个法律人我们作为一个法律人，我们要做的一个工作是要推动我们的整个行业形成这样一种共识，如何去规范应用 AI 的人，如何去规范创造 AI 的人，然后 AI 将成为我们智力领域的电能。AI 不再是对自然资源的索取，而是人类第一次为生存的世界贡献资源。我们过去所发的电，只不过都是在不断的向大自然去索取，而今天 AI 它通过这样的一种能力，我们在为这个世界去贡献虚拟的资源。AI 应当放大人类的创造力和学习力，而不是去相反，而不能去限制，而不能变成一种障碍尤其是不能让个别的企业去垄断这样的一种能力，所以说要降低门槛，让所有人都因为 AI 生活更美好，易于去实现梦想，就像今天我们用电一样。所以这是感谢海峰，感谢浩琛，然后有这样一个机会给大家做一些这样一个简短的分享，然后谢谢大家。
Thank you, Carver. Very interesting discussion. If I get it right, I think Carver's point is AI could be possibly governed or regulated as a form of public utility, so that we can make this resource, this valuable valuable resource to be more accessible and also easily available to all potential users. So this tool or this resource won't be limited to only a small number of developers, and also can be accessible to users and also to those companies or manufacturers that implement the AI tools to make it more available to all these individual users. So thank you. Our next speaker, last but not least, Mr. Donaldson from Google. Pass this to you, Caleb.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Professor Sun for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. I only wish I could have come in person, but I was unable to this time. As I was drafting these remarks, I was thinking about the usual back and forth of our legal struggles about artificial intelligence, which some people have alluded to here. And I thought I would urge people to step back and look at the bigger picture. So imagine my delight and surprise when I find that people have stepped way farther back and looked at a much bigger picture than I'm here to talk about. So I'm fascinated and thrilled to be part of this, and I just bowled over at the breadth of thinking here and the truly revolutionary approach. In any case, I wanted to talk about what to do in the face of rapid innovation and how the law in particular should approach a turbulent, rapidly changing moment like this one. So first, I'll start with some news. These are 3 developments out of Google DeepMind, our artificial intelligence research arm. Google DeepMind had a model called AlphaDev, a program called AlphaDev that has created faster sorting algorithms and faster hashing algorithms than any that humans have devised so far. The hashing algorithms are now used trillions of times every day around the world because we publish them. The sorting algorithms, I imagine, are not far behind. This is a remarkable achievement in the field of computer science. Moving to material science, we published a paper in Nature announcing the discovery of 2.2 million new stable crystal structures. Just for comparison, all of humanity in all of the time leading up until now had probably found around 40 or 50,000. We found 2.2 million new structures, and the 380,000 most promising we have published to a project called the Materials Project. And scientists and engineers are now looking through the results to try to figure out which of these new structures will be helpful for rechargeable batteries, for new processor substrates, for all kinds of modern technological applications. Our announcement about this said that we think this is representative of about 800 years of technological development by human beings crammed into a matter of months, thanks to this piece of artificial intelligence. And then finally, weather prediction. Google DeepMind announced in an article just recently a program called GraphCast, which makes, as far as we can tell, the most accurate 10-day weather forecasts ever, using a tiny, tiny fraction of the computing power of the state-of-the-art models. And so having built this giant model, it is now far more efficient at making much more accurate weather predictions than anything we've ever found before. So these are 3 big innovations in their fields, and they will have ramifications for all of the humans eventually. But the amazing thing to me is that all 3 of these things happened in the month of November. So the speed at which artificial intelligence is allowing us to innovate across multiple regions in science and engineering is just mind-boggling. And indeed, since then, we've seen the launch of the Gemini models, the announcement of the launch of Google's Gemini Era, which has our largest and most capable models, as well as a whole bunch of other remarkable discoveries. And so December is on pace to to eclipse, November, and there's no real sign of slowing down. So Google's vision here is to be bold and responsible with its artificial intelligence development. And, what does that look like? Well, our responsibility framework, I'm very glad for my colleague from Microsoft presentation. We similarly have an AI responsibility framework with AI principles. We've signed on to multiple agreements and understandings, including with the White House. We've announced the Secure AI framework. And we've started to commit to ways for rights holders to opt their material out of training, since that's a concern. We're trying to give web publishers more control over how their content is used. We announced a few months ago the Google extended robots.txt extension that can allow web publishers to say, don't train your Bard or Vertex models on my content. We've always, of course, had a robust set of robots.txt controls for web search, which we continue to respect. And so, that's one aspect of our story, to try and give publishers and creators more control over training. We've also announced that we'll be having a public and open dialogue about the requirements of any such system to provide more control. I won't go into the AI principles in the interest of time, nor the control structure that helps us review all our launches to make sure that they comport with them. Sundar, our CEO, has said, AI is too important not to regulate, and it's too important not to regulate well. And I think both parts of that are important. We have been working where we can with legislators and government regulators around the world. We've entered into a number of voluntary initiatives. But we really need to understand the second part. What does it mean to regulate AI well? Also, you might listen to my first three examples and say, well, we're copyright lawyers here. We're intellectual property lawyers. What do we care about the sciences or engineering? That's not what we're here to talk about. I have three easy answers, but there are other obviously more profound ones. And the first is hasty or imprecise rulemaking may well affect the way that these technologies are developed in a way that affects the pace of innovations that could save lives and make the planet more habitable and so on. Second, we will need language-capable models and visualization tools to help human beings make sense of all those new discoveries. So without a chatbot to talk to about the results of our material science research, how does one know which of these 380,000 promising materials to start with? How does one begin to sift through the millions of proteins that AlphaFold has folded for the first time ever? We are going to need these tools to help us make sense of the benefits that they have provided us. And third, and I think this is most important, we should look at the scientific advances here on obvious display, and we should think about these as easier versions of the generative AI puzzle. That these are much more constrained problems, although they're very, very complex, than writing a sonnet or a poem or authoring a viral short video that captures the hearts and minds of people, or a political manifesto, or any of the other myriad outputs of human expression and creativity. That we can imagine that once the computers get a little bit smarter at doing this stuff, we will face some very interesting questions about what is creative activity. What does creative activity mean to human beings who are doing the creating? And what does the consumption of creative products mean to the people who are doing the consuming? And those questions get right to the heart of copyright law, and they will be posed in entirely surprising ways, I predict. Meanwhile, in the heartland of copyright, back in my field of expertise, I know that chatbots and LLMs are generating text for people all around the world. I've talked to real estate agents who always hated writing those descriptions of properties, and now they just have them all done for them. I've talked to multiple business executives who use these tools to generate first drafts of communications, of presentations, as we saw. I've seen some really intriguing new uses. An executive I talked to said that he uses a large language model to criticize or find flaws in his reasoning and argument. So he will write out a proposal and then ask the LLM, you know, what's wrong with this? Where have I missed a step? What is missing in my reasoning? Or he will draft an email to his organization, to the people who report to him. And before he sends it, he will ask the large language model, what are places in this email where people might not understand what I meant, where they might think I meant something different, or where it's ambiguous. And he's using the model here as a way to sharpen his own ideas and expression. Really interesting and unexplored territory, but we're getting there very rapidly. Diffusion models and their successors are creating image and video generation, not just from text prompts as we've seen, but also from other images, from photos, from video, from, you know, the editing process with AI is almost as important as the raw generation process, because, you know, as with most digital creation these days, everybody starts from raw materials. And just recently, part of this December launch, Google DeepMind started talking about Lyria, which, among many other things, allows you to hum a melody and then hear the melody, for example, as a horn section would play it, and put that right into a track that you're recording, or a card that you're sending, or, you know, some other piece of multimedia content for you. And we're working to bring those innovations to people through YouTube as quickly as we can. So these tools are here. They are ramping up extraordinarily quickly, much more quickly, I think, than anyone thought. And very soon we are going to face a slate of achievements that is just like the one in the sciences. But that will look very different, I think. So in a time of rapid change like this, flexibility is key. This is a quote from me. But it's the thing I most wanted to talk about here, because we have a tendency to want, as human beings, to want to give our opinion about things. But when there are a large number of unknowns, our opinion may do more harm than good. And where circumstances are rapidly changing, it may be impossible to gather the information necessary to make the appropriate decision before things are different. When I talk about flexibility, I mean a number of different things. I mean flexible exceptions to copyright law, like fair use. It's no surprise that Google relies heavily in its businesses on fair use. We think AI training is no exception. You know, those questions are still being worked out in the courts. We look forward to having those conversations. But it's notable that where there are flexible exceptions, there is more, you know, more rapid innovation, because the flexibility is able to support change much faster. I think that in order to embrace flexibility, we need to focus on first principles and desired outcomes. What do I mean by this? Well, as far as first principles go, what's the purpose of copyright? Or even deeper, why do we want creative material in the first place? Is it because it is an important mode of self-expression and exploration for the author? Is it because reading it or experiencing those works has an effect on the reader or the audience? Is it because there is some real or imagined connection between the creator and the audience that is fostered through this process of making and consuming art and culture and communicative media? We're actually going to have to ask ourselves these questions and proceed from those as a way to figure out what the right balance is. We similarly in Japan, in the current copyright law, they're very clear that a use that is not for a person to enjoy the sentiments and ideas in the work is not a copyright relevant use. And And that's another way to focus on the first principles of copyright law itself. As far as desired outcomes, what do we want as people or as societies out of this exercise? We need to decide on a balance of compensation and incentive for human beings to create new works, and the ability to explore the bounty that artificial intelligence is set to bestow on us. We need to keep a broad framework as another piece of this flexibility. I have seen many questions asked about what about artificial intelligence generation in the style of an artist who's under copyright. I'm not going to use Starry Night because Starry Night is in the public domain. Although it's a very popular example, it doesn't make much legal sense. But for an artist or a painting or an artwork that is still not under copyright, you know, to say like, make me a picture in the style of Keith Haring, not necessarily copyright infringement, but there's an urge for copyright practitioners to expand the reach of copyright, to address what is a very strong moral feeling that there should be appropriate guardrails here. But perhaps there are other mechanisms, other ways for those specific problems to be addressed. Similarly with misinformation. I would say one key of flexibility here is to remember the other actors in the sphere and to keep copyright concerned with the things that it is designed to do and that it does well. And finally, as much as possible, to be aware of at least the shape of the many things we don't know here yet. There are so many features of this technology. There are so many emergent characteristics happening that we should at least maintain a healthy respect for and humility, you know, a healthy respect for what we don't know and humility about how we approach the things that are happening now. These are the things that I've tried to keep in mind as I work with these technologies every day, counseling product teams who come to me with just amazing new discoveries and new capabilities. And so we're trying to balance, as I say, being bold on the one hand and responsible on the other to leverage the very best of artificial intelligence and to empower people to use it. I'll end with two slightly opposing principles that I have been exhorting people about in talks like this and also inside the company for quite a while, which are, if you want to be involved in this space and if you want to make policy and file lawsuits and you know, be an active participant in shaping this future, you know, welcome. I think it's wonderful. My two pieces of advice are, first, learn as much as you can about the technology and how it actually works. Some parts of it are mysterious, even to people who work on it, but other parts are knowable. And, you know, to really immerse yourself in what is actually happening when an LLM makes up a piece of text, or when you train a diffusion model, try as best as possible to understand the nuts and bolts of what's going on. Because when you do that, you can apply the law better, you can make better policy, you can leverage what these technologies do well and avoid what they do poorly. And the second kind of principle that is in tension with that is, especially in a time of rapid change, don't over-index on what's happening today. What's happening today is not what's happening yesterday. Today, DeepMind released a paper outlining how they had a coding model and then another LLM working in dialogue to get better results at the bin packing algorithm than any results that human or machine have ever created to date. And so that was today, and yesterday we didn't know about that. We are working on, you know, the AI research community is working on problems such as what they call machine forgetting, where perhaps a piece of training data, its effect on a model could be nullified. It's not a solved problem yet, but the existence of that technology, that know-how, if and when it happens, will change questions about what do we do about people opting out of training data for models that have already been made. And so we have to be sensitive to the capabilities and the actual functioning of these machines today, but we have to be alive to the possibility that they, like much else, are going to be very different tomorrow. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate the chance to share these thoughts with you.
For sharing all these updates and also all this great progress that has been made by great companies like Google and also Microsoft in launching all these useful tools. I will open up a little bit, maybe 5 or 10 minutes at most, for some questions, if we have any questions from the audience to our speakers for this panel.
Hello, sorry about that. I really love the presentation from the panel, and my question is that if AI generative content looks like it's going to be the future and it's going to flood the market, would us foresee a world that we no longer see human generated content on the market for end users, but human generative content is primarily used to train foundation model, because eventually you still need fresh, new human content, created content to train the model. But because on the market, you no longer can distinguish what is AI generated or not AI generated. So, so human are not creating content for us. Human only create content for foundation models. Just a crazy question. I would, particularly for the gentleman from Google, yeah.
In keeping with my own advice to remember what I don't know, I think that sounds like an unlikely future, because I think, but I can't be sure. I think we value creative work in part because there's a real human mind behind it. And I think that will give rise either to labeling requirements or some kind of detection mechanisms, as Professor Fisher was talking about, or it will give rise to smaller scale circles of trust or ability to vouch for content as having been human created in ways that people can understand. At least in my market, trying to do holiday shopping this year, spent a lot of time buying things for people that were made by people whose websites I visited and who I had some contact with, much more than I would have bought handmade items before the existence of the internet. And I think 2 things are happening. One is digital distribution platforms and e-commerce make it easier for individual people to sell the things that they made to a wider audience, so I can find them. That's thing 1, and I think that's true. But also I have come to value more the personal handcrafts of people who are making things. And the way that for myself, I'm sure that that's true, is that I send them an email and see what the response email looks like. And on a small scale, that works for my holiday shopping. But I think on a larger scale, similar things will happen where people will continue to value the words of people as reflections of the thoughts of those people, because they will value the thoughts of those people intrinsically. That's what we've seen. It's not, it doesn't take care of everything. There's a certain amount of elevator music in the world, no offense to the people who currently make elevator music, by which I mean things that you don't necessarily pay attention to in order to discern the thoughts and feelings of the person who made it. You just listen to it while you're in the elevator, and it fills the time well enough and covers up embarrassing background sounds, and that's the end of it.
Amy, you want to share some thoughts on this question as well?
I actually agree with Caleb. I think it's quite unlikely that human will be eliminated by robots, etc. I think for overall for artificial intelligence, like humans input is still quite important. That is why like we name our products Copilot, but not like pilot. We need human to work together and then actually to oversee what the machines is doing. But on the other hand, I think for us human, it's also important for us to upskill, right? Because I think I know one lady mentioned about like the job elimination question, right? So I think for human, it is also important for us to keep it up and then to upskill so that the machines can help us to do with the lower value things, but then human we can like add our input and then machine can help us to increase the efficiency.
Further questions?
Hey, I have a question for Amy and then a question for Carver. So Amy, I really like your presentation, especially, you just mentioned that the intention of naming Copilot, it's really adorable. So my question for you is about how, as how Microsoft devise such, a great copyright and policy and other related policies globally and locally. So there's a global, I think, a strategy or a set of global strategies that, for example, the headquarter of Microsoft makes your boss Brad Smith makes. But I think as you said, you are in charge of legal and government matters here in Hong Kong and Macau. So how do you make adjustment to the global strategies and make them adaptable or effective in Hong Kong? For example, in the United States and many other countries, there are fair use mechanism, which is a lot more flexible than the fair dealing system adopted in here in Hong Kong. And so I believe that there are considerations that you may need to take into account when you implement global strategies locally. And I'm so grateful that your office is providing ChatGPT service for us, which makes our life a lot better. So I'm curious about how, as a leading expert in this field, how do you devise policy changes or legal considerations locally? A question for Carver. 我对你的就是建议非常感兴趣啊，就是 AI 最后以后可以像电一样被大家应用。但是我在想，同时更重要的是不是，如果电大家都可以用是吧？小孩子到比如说老人，但是我觉得很重要的一个部分是，如果 AI 能够像电一样被大家广泛应用的话，首先我们要有对 AI 的很多的知识的了解，所以我在想，这个 AI 怎么去融入平时的大家的教育？当然，您也提到了使用 AI 有很多的风险，那么同时怎么样去为不同年龄组的人设计风险考量呢？我觉得这个如果电不当使用的话，会造成触电，是不是？甚至导致就是对生命的威胁。所以我觉得各种形式的教育关于法律的对技术的教育，对法律各种问题的认知，我觉得都很重要。所以我想您的就是演讲的话题非常宏大哦，所以我在想是不是可以再跟我们分享一下，怎么让我们对于 AI 的教育更加普及？然后我觉得风险实在太多了，能不能分享一下有一些风险防范的措施？因为我觉得您平时做的很多工作为公司都是做风险防范的工作。好，非常感谢。
First, Amy.
Let me do it quickly and then I can pass it over to you. Well, of course, we have a big global policy team at Microsoft, right? And then we have a local team. I think, well, of course, our R&D engineering team, most of them are like situated in the US. So for that part, I think the US law, of course, applies, right? But well, as you mentioned, like different regions, different countries, the governments and policymakers, they are thinking about like different ways of regulating AI. Like the EU and then the China and then US, they all take different approach, right? Well, for us, our job is to like reach out to different government policymakers around the world. Like for us in Hong Kong, we also reach out to local policymakers and government to understand the thoughts, and also, of course, we will communicate with them what our thoughts are and our best practices with them, for them to consider, and we hope that like in their policymaking process, they will like have us like have our input to also frame the local policies. Yeah, so that's basically how it works.
非常感谢浩璇提出这个问题啊，然后我呢，把我的这样一个思考呢，然后给大家做一个分享。其实昨天晚上我在跟海峰，其实也聊起了一点点关于这样的一个事情，就是我这段时间一直在思考的，就是说我们创新方向的一个问题，那么回到 AI 的这个主题，就是说，今天在 AI 方面发明最核心算法的这些人，如果未来的 AI 真正彻底的改变了我们这个世界，我们对他们的奖赏是什么？是要给他诺贝尔奖。但是当有了这样的一个发明之后，他怎么样才能给每一个人产生意义？它就要变成类似于像插座一样，把这个电接入到千家万户去，让每个人都用得上，它才变得真正有社会学和经济学的意义。那么在这个过程当中，对于我们这些企业，或者是说我们这个时代的人是什么呢？意义是什么呢？它是一个创新的机会，它是一个创新的机会。那么，因为有了这样的一个低门槛之后，然后可能有千万的人会基于这些最核心的 AI 的创新，然后去做一些更细小的、深入到每一个人能够应用的这样的一种创新。而这些创新，我们首先要解决的就是，比如说是一个安全问题。我们在网上边会找到一个视频，就是叫平衡车。原来野生的平衡车是什么样子呢？它会在那儿疯狂的转动，并不会像我们今天这样，哎，踩着它就可以到处走。但是我们用技术的创新驯化了这样的一个野生的平衡车，它变成了我们身边非常听话的这样的一个工具。而我们今天所发明的新能源汽车，它早期的时候它会爆炸，它会起火。这个智能驾驶它可能会把我们带到沟里去，这些都是危险。但是我们怎么解决这个问题呢？技术创新。而所有的这些技术创新是基于最源头的那个科学创新。请大家注意一下我用的两个词，就是说我们在作为企业的时候，我们在做技术创新，而我们的技术创新往往源自于最源头的科学创新。科学创新就相当于天空上飘来的那些乌云，而技术创新是我们让这些乌云变成了甘霖，降到了地上，让我们所有人都因此而受益，万物生长。所以说这里头的安全问题，这里头的这些应用的降低门槛的问题，其实这都是对于一些小企业的这样的一个机会，他们可能成长为更大的企业。然后这些企业把这些技术创新变成了产品，变成了服务。就像未来的 AI 会发明一个类似于像电视这样的东西，类似于电话的东西，类似于像麦克风这样的一个东西，我们不用再对着大家喊有一个麦克风的东西，它用电把我的声音传播出去。但是一开始的时候它会电我， 但是后来它不会了。我们慢慢的用技术创新把这个很危险的东西把它变得没有危险，我们会安全的去应用它。所以说还是辛苦一下海峰，要不帮我稍微的。
Very briefly, a question from Haifeng is, how we make AI to be more accessible, but in the meantime, manage all these challenges and all this related risk. I think Carver's point is there could be different levels of innovations, scientific innovation, also technological innovations. For those people who who started breakthroughs for all these AI related technologies, they can be awarded with Nobel Prize, but that's only the first step. There could be many more steps going forward to make sure how those scientific innovations, scientific breakthroughs can be made more accessible. So that will require some additional technology innovations at different levels, in the market by different companies, different levels of manufacturers. Of course, those people who are conducting all these technological innovations, they have to, follow some safety, protocols to make sure, while they make those technologies to be available, but in the meantime, that can be safe and secure, and also, can be used without all these challenges and also this risk. I hope I get all the points right.
谢谢海峰。
Yeah, I think Haifeng is better than GPT.
Yeah, that's what I wish to emphasize. Haifeng demonstrate that, human creativity, he's the best example, demonstrating that human creativity still eclipse machine creativity.
Have an assistant back
Yeah.
in the office.
Okay.
So many of us have terribly long working hours. So if we have an AI assistant, like the co-pilot
Yeah,
back in the office, we can do sailing while somebody is working in the office 24 hours.
Yeah.
Of course, this tool cannot replace our work. That's something we don't want to see happen.
I know that we are about to finish the conference, but I want to ask one quick question because I think this is really relevant. Carver was a student at Harvard Law School. He took Professor Fisher's copyright course. So I think this is a question that law professors and copyright students would like to ask. Is about the Google Digital Library decision that U.S. courts handed down, ruling that the Google Digital Library project constitute fair use. So it's a question for Carver. I was curious about why you didn't mention the Google Digital Library project ruling, which is judicial decision that is most advantageous to AI systems usage of copyright materials for data training. So I'm curious, and I wish to know your opinions about the relevance of this ruling to the topics that you shared with us.
Of course, I don't like to brag. We are maybe the most successful copyright defendant in terms of aggregate dollars in the U.S. But it is true that the Google Books cases, the digital library case, and is strong support for the idea that training is fair use, because the idea of using entire works or complete reproductions of large numbers of works, 20 million books in the case of the Google Books case, is nonetheless a fair use, making complete reproductions, because those complete copies are in the service of a very transformative product, right? And one with massive public benefit. So, those are relevant factors in the fair use analysis. There is very little demonstrable market harm from those copies, because the copies are not for sale and they didn't replace any sales of copies. First of all, and then second of all, the use is incredibly transformative. So the point of scanning 20 million books was not to sell paper copies of them, for example, which might have been a harder fair use case to win, but instead was to make a searchable index of all those books. so that people could find them if they wanted them, to unlock the knowledge that's inside them. Here we have something a little bit different in the case of training an LLM on, publicly available material. What we're doing is we're making reproductions, because computers make a copy of everything in the course of doing anything with it, pretty much. And those reproductions are similarly just on their way to a very transformative use. Here, we're not even concerned with the expressive value of the works. We're concerned with statistical relationships about the relation between, statistical information about the relationships between one word and another word. How often is this word followed by that word? And we extract information about these texts to incorporate into our model, to layer into a trained model in a way that the model doesn't contain any of the original works. It's merely, it's merely the biggest spreadsheet you ever saw of multiple dimensions of weights between one word and all of the next likely words.
I would like to add briefly that I agree entirely with Caleb's analysis and response to Hao-Cheng's question. However, I think it's fair to acknowledge that the outcome of the Google Books case was a second best solution. That Google and the libraries that provided the books had a bigger prize in mind at the beginning. The goal was not merely to index the body of knowledge, it was to make the body of knowledge available to the world. And there was a negotiation over the period of years between three parties: Google, the Authors Guild, and the universities that owned the physical copies from which this enormous body of material was assembled. And the fruit of that negotiation was a tentative settlement that had many provisions that would have augmented the world's access to the world's knowledge. So I have to confess that I was involved in that negotiation. And there was one aspect of it that I was especially attached to, which was a provision that, had the settlement survived, would have made available in every library in the world one terminal that provides access to full text access to all books ever published. And the unfortunate, in my view, unfortunate effect of the collapse of that settlement is that we were left with a vestige of the original ambition. And I agree with Caleb that the vestige is lawful, and that the interpretation of the fair use doctrine that allowed it to continue was accurate. But I wish we could have had the original. And from this example, there may be a lesson to the question that's been posed periodically today, namely, how can you devise an appropriate institutional response to the rise of AI? My suggestion would be, again, judicial resolution of competing claims is a second best alternative. A better alternative is to assemble in some way genuine representatives of all of the stakeholders to come to devise a system that addresses all of their needs, and not rely on the courts to sort out the competing interest. How to structure procedures that make it possible to formulate standards and accommodations is extremely challenging. But I think that should be the goal rather than crafting legislative or judicial efforts to achieve accommodations.
Thank you, Terry. Can we wrap up here?
Yeah, yeah.
Can I invite Ocean to make some final remarks?
Oh, I actually have no comments to make because Professor Fisher really have said exactly what I want to say. So it's perfect to end this conference with Professor Fisher's concluding remarks. So thank you so much for coming, and we really had a wonderful discussion this morning, and we overran for 20 minutes. I think it totally worth the some extra time for some discussion, and as some of the speakers mentioned, we're going to have another conference in January about AI and personal data protection. It's on January 10th and 11th, which will be taking place exactly in this conference room. So I hope you will I hope you will consider joining the conference as well. And we will be hosting more events of this kind next spring. So stay tuned. And I do hope that Professor Fisher will consider flying back to Hong Kong to attend the conferences. And also, of course, extend a warm invitation to Caleb again. Hope you can visit us, in person. It's so great to have you. Thank you so much.